The Switch Pro is happening, but my theory is it'll be a home console only. Hello everyone, my name's Adam and welcome to TimeLag Gaming. We have had a lot of rumors over the past year about a 4K capable Switch Pro coming soon, and we recently got a couple more. In the discussion about the Switch Pro, the majority of people seem to assume it'll be a more powerful version of the original hybrid Switch. And because of all the rumors about the Switch Pro being more powerful and able to play in 4K, some people seem to think it's not happening. Well, of course they aren't going to release a 4K hybrid Switch this year. It would be too expensive to make a hybrid console that can support native 4K gaming, and just doesn't make any sense at this point in time. What does make way more sense though is if Nintendo made the Switch Pro a home console only. Last year, I heard this thrown around a little bit in discussions, but that idea didn't seem to stick. First of all, having a home console only makes perfect sense. Nintendo loves to have a family of systems. This will give every type of gamer a system that fits them. The regular Switch is the all-in-one hybrid. The Lite is for those who care more about portability, and the Pro would be for those who care about graphics and only care about TV mode. Nintendo has shown they're willing to make a Switch that only plays in one mode and doesn't technically switch, so they would be willing to make a TV mode only Switch Pro. But if Nintendo was to make another Switch that only plays in one mode, it would need to have an advantage over the hybrid Switch. The Lite's advantage is it's cheaper and more portable than the hybrid. The only advantages of a more expensive Switch Pro home console would be more power and better graphics. So a more powerful Switch Pro with more power and 4K capability is possible. 4K is the new standard, and while Nintendo is usually late with adopting new standards, like finally allowing 1080p with the Wii U, it has already been the standard for a long time. 4K is everywhere now. It's in every camera, smartphone, TV, game system, laptop, etc. And it's become much more affordable too. Also, Nintendo is working on a more seamless way to transfer save data back and forth between Switch systems. So for those who can't afford the luxury of multiple systems, you can still technically switch gameplay styles from TV mode to handheld by having a Switch or Switch Lite. And remember, Nintendo has said they want the Switch to be in multiple systems per household device. So it'd just be another way to get more systems into the house. The Pro home console would be a perfect addition to the Switch lineup, and in my eyes, it's the only thing that makes sense this soon. Now for a second, let's just pretend that Nintendo does want to make a beefier home console Switch. Would it be possible? Of course. We already have the $400 PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X that played in 4K. In that sense, a $400 Switch Pro home console is absolutely possible if Nintendo did choose to do that. Another possibility is making the Switch Pro home console cheaper than the hybrid Switch and just making it upscale to 4K. But I'm gonna stick with this being a more expensive higher end model with true 4K. Will it release this year in 2020? I think it could. I personally think it makes more sense to release in 2021 though. That way there is 2 years between each major Switch revision, but summer or fall 2020 could definitely happen, and that's what's been rumored. Either way though, I think Nintendo is planning to release the next Switch alongside Breath of the Wild 2. I posted this a while back on Twitter and it gained a lot of traction. Nintendo released Breath of the Wild alongside the Switch on March 3rd, 2017. They released Link's Awakening alongside the Switch Lite on September 20th, 2019. So it makes sense that they would want to release the Breath of the Wild sequel alongside the Switch Pro, especially because the game can be optimized for the Pro so it takes advantage of all the new power. The Breath of the Wild sequel is the type of game that would help sell a Pro Switch because it could really benefit from the better visuals. To back this up, one of the recent rumors also said the Pro would launch alongside a system seller game. Also, it's very likely that Breath of the Wild 2 could come out in 2020. They have had enough time to make it since they were using the engine, so a Switch Pro coming out this year is likely to me. Okay, but now what about the why? Why does Nintendo need to have an upgraded Switch Pro home console? Well, I don't think they need one to compete with Sony or Xbox. I think Nintendo can hold their own just like they always have, but a 4K Switch Pro could actually create more competition with those companies. If you didn't already know, the next-gen Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 are releasing holiday 2020, so a Switch Pro coming before then would help bring attention to Nintendo before those systems release. Now I think the 4K Pro Switch will roughly match the power of the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, so it wouldn't be better than the new stuff, but it would still help Nintendo stay relevant in those markets. Like I said, they don't need to make a Pro just to compete with Xbox or Sony, and that probably won't be their main reason for releasing one. Nintendo released a beefier 3DS with the new 3DS and new 3DS XL. This allowed new games that weren't previously possible on the systems. This wasn't really to compete with other companies. This was to allow new games to come to the system and to help other games run more smoothly. That's likely the reason that Nintendo would make a 4K Switch Pro console. They want to bring more big AAA games to the Switch. And yes, that could mean that some games would be exclusive to the Pro. And I know people would hate that. But in my eyes, if those games weren't going to happen on the old hardware anyways, then people who own older systems aren't really missing anything. Many game creators have said their games just wouldn't be possible on Switch. So wouldn't you rather have those games be playable on one Switch system than none at all? That being said, I think it might be possible that Nintendo won't let, or at least will highly restrict devs from making exclusive games for the Pro. It's possible they will tell or encourage them to try to get their games running on the original Switch too. Obviously, if they did this, the regular Switch version would run those games much blurrier and downgraded like Doom and Witcher 3. But people have made their voices heard that they are happy to play downgraded games like this if they can play them portably. Then again, they might just go with full-on exclusives to help get more big AAA games on the Switch. Now speaking of portability, a home console Switch Pro wouldn't be able to play portably, and this leaves room for Nintendo to make a true next-gen Switch-like console. The home console Switch will not be their next-gen system. Their next-gen system will bring native 4K gaming to the hybrid Switch. As I said earlier, it makes no sense for Nintendo to release a native 4K hybrid Switch this early, and it's not feasible because of how much it would cost. But in a few years, it will be possible and make much more sense. Nintendo's other main family of systems was the 3DS line. At one point, they were selling the 2DS, 3DS, and 3DS XL. They didn't release a complete replacement for the 3DS and 3DS XL until 2015, when they added more power to the systems. The new 3DS and new 3DS XL replaced the old systems, but only after they had 3 unique products in the family, and only after about 2 years after the third system was added. Nintendo doesn't want to replace the hybrid Switch this early. It's still selling incredibly well, and there's only 2 unique products in the lineup. But making more unique iterations of the Switch will help sales across the entire family of systems. It'll also help the Switch as a product to have a longer lifespan of direct support from Nintendo. When they released the Switch Lite, it actually bumped up sales of the regular Switch. Releasing a Switch Pro would do the same thing. In a couple years down the line, a 4K hybrid would make perfect sense. Then that would allow you to take all the huge exclusive games on the go, most likely in 1080p. Then you could dock your Switch to play in 4K. By that time, the Lite would be dropped down to 150, the Switch to 250, and the Pro to 300. Then the 4K hybrid could come in at 400. Or they will stop selling the OG hybrid and just have the Lite, Pro, and new hybrid. Now another possibility with this theory is Nintendo releasing a hybrid Switch Pro and a TV mode only Pro. This Switch would output or upscale to 4K, but run games at 1080p. Then it could have your typical upgrades like a better screen, more power, better build quality, etc. One of the recent rumors did say we could get a Switch version that uses magnesium alloy instead of plastic, as well as a better CPU, so that could be pointing to this happening, although the rumor of the source has a mixed track record. Anyways, this could release before or alongside the TV mode only Pro, and would be a higher end hybrid Switch. And because it's more powerful, it could run potential exclusive Pro games on the go. This would give Nintendo more time to work on a true native 4K hybrid for their next gen system. But honestly, I just don't see this type of hybrid revision happening this year. A lot of people seem to think this is happening, and they may be correct. I could be totally wrong about all of this, and I probably will be, but I just have this feeling and I'm gonna stick with it. Of course, this is all just my speculation and theories based off rumors, Nintendo's history, and my personal thoughts. But I really do believe the only way we get a Switch Pro with 4K gaming this soon is if it's a home console only. It's the only thing that really makes any sense, and it's also the only realistic approach. We are getting a Pro Switch eventually. If Nintendo added more power to the 3DS line, you can bet they're going to add more power to the Switch lineup of systems, at least eventually. I think that'll happen this year as a home console. If not, then definitely 2021. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all this talk of a Switch Pro? How do you think Nintendo's going to handle their next system in the Switch lineup? Let me know your take in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching.